Hey everyone, welcome to a special episode of the Sports Take Lunch Break brought to you by Office Essentials, the premier provider for all your office needs. My name's Andrew Corns and we're kicking off our second episode with a special home run with the St. Louis Cardinals making their much anticipated return to the baseball playoffs. And we're here with an NLDS preview as we get ready for first pitch today at 4:02 p.m. I'm joined in this session with Sean Jeffries. You may have heard him yesterday on our inaugural Blues preview.
Hello.
And then stepping out from behind the production screen, we've got Greg Bussmann on the mic today.
Hello, Andrew.
Now, I must admit that Cardinals baseball was kind of my first love, but I've fallen out of baseball love as of late. So I'm going to turn to my two gentlemen in the room with me to kind of drop the expert analysis on this series coming up. We're gonna jump into a couple of burning questions that people have as we get ready for the postseason. The first one I'd say is probably Atlanta seems to be dealing with a little bit of injury issues right now. Is that something that kind of tips the scales and towards the Cardinals being favored in this series?
I think it depends. Obviously, if you have guys that aren't going to be in the lineup, that's going to hurt. But like Ronald Acuna Jr., for example, he could have easily been considered for the MVP this year. And he's so young, he's 21 years old. If he doesn't get to play or can't play to like that level, then that could seriously hurt Atlanta. Otherwise, he's in the lineup and he's punishing whoever he's playing against. I mean, and Freddie Freeman might be having some problems too. I don't know as much about him this season, but he's a stalwart for the Braves since Chipper Jones left. He's been that guy, and if they don't play, I think it does tip the scales a little bit in the Cardinals' favor. The Braves hit the ball really, really hard, and if either one of those guys isn't hitting the ball, that could be in the Cardinals' favor for sure.
Well, I think of all the division series, this is arguably the closest, most toss-up of all the matchups that are out there. So anything like injuries to two of the Braves' best players is clearly going to tip the scales in the Cardinals' favor. And I think saw some reports this morning that Freeman's having trouble getting full extension on his swing, and the Cardinals have a plan to, exploit that with the pitchers. And so hopefully, it hopefully does.
Yeah,
to tip the scales
absolutely
towards the Cardinals.
Colton Wong didn't play in the last couple games of the season, and if he wasn't playing right now, I would cut the Cardinals' chances quite a bit. But it looks like he's going to play. So,
yeah. By the same token, though, that's the same question we're asking about the Braves players. Is he, he's really been an engine that has driven the Cardinals lineup over the home stretch of the season. And if he's not up to form, how does that tip the scales towards the Braves, perhaps?
Yeah. Look at Rizzo for the Cubs. I thought he was going to be out for a week or more, and he ends up starting in the first game of that series and hits a home run. So it definitely makes a big difference.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying on both of those. Next question I want to get into is Jack Flaherty. It's his first postseason, I believe, starting for the Cardinals. Most people have him pegged for games 2 and 5. Do you think the Cardinals are going to be able to lean on him for 2 starts to kind of replicate what he's done the second half of the season? The numbers he's put up have been just astronomical. Can he do that in 2 starts and kind of carry us with his pitching?
Well, he's had a historic second half of the season for sure. I guess the short answer is yes, but they have to get to a game 5 for him to be able to have that effect. So the other pitchers are going to have to step up as well. But as good as Flaherty has been, you almost chalk that game 2 up as a victory, And so you kind of think, well, if the Cardinals could just steal game 1 somehow, and then you throw Flaherty in game 2, you could come back to St. Louis with a commanding lead in the series and not even need to get back to Flaherty in game 5. So I think his start is very important. You really need to win that game for sure. You have to come away with at least a split. And Sean, what do you think?
I agree 100%. I think, first of all, I think Flaherty has shown that he's just unflappable this year. I mean, maybe he struggled a little bit in the first half compared to his just absolutely incredible second half. But since that second half started, he's just a machine. And he'll go out, and you can see it when he's being taken out after 7, 8 fantastic innings. He's not super happy about leaving the game. He wants to stay in and pitch.
Yeah. How many times did he take a no-hitter into the 7th inning over the past few weeks?
Exactly.
Probably 2 or 3 that I can think of.
Exactly. I think game 2 for sure you can count on a win from Flaherty. I don't think he's going to be affected by the pressure of being in the playoffs or anything like that. I think game 1 probably is more important. If Mikolas can win, the Cardinals can win behind him in game 1, I think they take a 2-0 lead because I'm counting on Flaherty to pitch that game 2 to a win.
Yeah, and then you come home and Wainwright's got the ball in game 3, and he's far better at home. I mean, his last start was a little concerning, but he's been good at home, and hope he's got one more good start in his arsenal, because that might be his last.
Yeah,
possibly.
Yeah, I think if they win the first 2, it'll be a sweep.
That leads me to my next question, which is the pitching matchup this afternoon. Do you think the experience that Dallas Keuchel has coming in, it's his 20th postseason start, does that tip the scales for the Braves tonight, or do you see that as a big thing?
I don't think it's so much as his postseason experience as the fact that he's a lefty and the Cardinals struggle against left-handed pitching. And I think Mikolas too, I don't really think he's going to be affected by the fact that it's the first time he's been in the postseason. I just don't see that being an issue with really anyone on this team right now. It's just they know how to win.
Yeah, I think there was a little controversy around Mikolas getting that start over maybe a Hudson. However, Mikolas has his last 6 starts, he's given up 3 runs or less. So he's coming in on a high note. And while I don't have scientific statistics to back me up, the Cardinals have a history of jumping on good pitchers in the playoffs pretty hard. They handled Kershaw pretty well in the playoffs. They handled Scherzer. You want to go back even further. They've beaten, Holiday with the Phillies. And so, again, I didn't break down the numbers on that, but they do have a kind of a history of not bowing to great pitching in the postseason especially. But that left-hander thing is a little concerning.
Yeah.
And given what you guys have seen over the course of the year, do you think that they're going to be able to handle playing their best on the road? Do you see anything in terms of how they played on the road this season that can lend itself to being in their favor?
I don't know about being in their favor.
It really comes down to, we've talked all about pitching so far mostly, but it really comes down to if the offense shows up. And the Cardinals' offense has kind of run seemingly hot and cold all season. And when it shows up, they win, and they're a very good team when their offense is clicking and tough to beat. And if their offense is there and clicking, they're going to be hard to beat.
I would agree with that.
And this is probably Paul Goldschmidt's biggest pressure situation. It's safe to say in Arizona, the spotlight wasn't on him the way it is in St. Louis for postseason baseball. Do you think he's going to be able to live up to the expectations that we, as Cardinal fans, sort of set for our superstars in postseason?
Short answer, no. Because St. Louis fans have super high expectations in those kinds of situations and expect greatness from our great players.
Albert Pujols in his prime.
All the time, exactly. I think for Goldie, if some of the other guys that maybe weren't really hitting toward the end of the season, like Marcell Ozuna, for example, if some of those other guys are hitting, he's going to do really well because the pressure is not going to be off. I think he's the kind of guy who's going to put the pressure on himself. And if no one else is hitting anything and he's got to do it all, he feels like he has to do it all himself, he could struggle a little bit.
I don't have any way of knowing this. I don't think anybody does, but I feel like he probably is putting a lot of pressure on himself to perform. And it's his first year here. He signed a long-term deal. I think he feels like, I'm sure he really wants to, come through and be the hero, but will he? We'll see, I suppose.
Yeah, this is probably a good stopping point. We're going to take a quick commercial break and hear from our sponsor, Office Essentials, and we'll be back with some predictions.
This is Emily from Office Essentials. Did you know that germs on hands can be transferred up to 7 times, making frequently touched surfaces in the office hotspots for viruses? And a virus can spread through an entire office in just a few hours. Some germs can even live for days on hard surfaces. So hotspots like door handles, keyboards, light switches, desktops, and even elevator buttons should be cleaned even more often. And don't forget about the kitchen. Break rooms have some of the germiest surfaces in the entire office. Sink faucets, microwaves, and refrigerator handles too. Office Essentials can help you protect your office from sickness this flu season. Right now at stlofficesupplies.com, we're offering a free printable poster that you can print and hang around your office. It contains tips to help coworkers prevent the spread of the flu. Office Essentials is your hometown supplier of all the office supplies and furniture you need to run and grow your business. Learn more today at stlofficesupplies.com.
All right, we're back with our predictions part of the episode. So we're first going to jump into the NLDS and find out what you guys think, who's going to win, how many games. Then we're going to quickly jump ahead and get your World Series picks and who's going to ultimately win the title. So first off, Cardinals, Braves, how's it going to go down?
I'm feeling like a homer, but I'm going to say Cardinals in 4.
I'll do you one better and say Cardinals in 3.
Wow, well,
we're going to sweep the Braves. I said if Miles Mikolas wins tonight, the Cardinals will win in 3.
Sweep.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Well, I hope you're right.
Is there an MVP that you see coming out of this? Like, who's the guy that gets them where they need to be?
You know what? I'm going to go counterintuitive with this one, and I'm going to say it's Matt Carpenter. I think, he's ever so slightly heated up a little bit as the season came to a close, and I don't know. I call it a gut feeling or wishful thinking. I don't know. Whatever. I'll probably be way off, but I'm gonna pick Carpenter.
He had success against the Braves this year.
Oh, that's true. We didn't even talk about that, did we?
Yeah, I think the only guy that could hit him during the regular season. So I think that's actually a good pick. I'm going to actually go with Goldie. I'm going to say that the offense clicks and the other guys are pulling their weight, and then he just naturally steps up and bashes his way to the MVP for that series.
Well, I know you guys have probably won over everyone in town that's listening with the Cardinals homer pick.
Sure.
Let's see if you guys are going to keep that going. Now we're going to get to the World Series. Do either of you seeing the Cardinals in the World Series? If not, who do you see making it to the end, and who's going to win it at the end?
I'm going to go all the way. I think the Cardinals will take care of Atlanta quickly. I think LA is going to have a harder time with Washington than the Cardinals will with Atlanta, so that's going to take a bit more out of them. And by the time the Cardinals and Dodgers clash in the NLCS, that the Cardinals end up beating them and go to the World Series. And I think on the other side, I'm going to go nostalgia and pick the Yankees. I couldn't think of a better World Series to watch than Yankees-Cardinals.
That's about the most romantic pick you can think of.
That's me.
Cardinals-Yankees.
Mr.
Sean,
Romance.
Mr. Romantic.
I do agree with that take, but that's not where I'm going. I picked Cardinals in 4, so I agree that the Cardinals are going to make relatively quick work of the Braves. I'm going to say, you didn't call for it exactly, but Washington finally won a game in the playoffs. I think it was their first win in 6 tries or 7 tries. I think they're going to go on a bit of a roll, and I'm going to call for them over the Dodgers and set up a nice NLCS between the Capitals or Nationals. Sorry, Capitals. I was on my brain from last night's game. And I think the Cardinals will get past them. I don't think that good Washington pitching scares the Cardinals. So I'd homer pick again, but let's see the Cardinals in the World Series. But unlike the Yankees, I think it's going to be against Houston, who's arguably the best team going right now. There's almost nothing you can nitpick even on their roster. They're about the most complete team in the whole postseason. So I think they'll get there, and love to see the Cardinals take them down. But I think I got Houston going all the way.
That's fair. I mean, best 3 pitchers in baseball, I think, all play for Houston right now.
It is kind of a buzzsaw of pitching.
Yeah.
You know, that we'd have to get through to beat Houston, but I'd love to see it happen, but I'm going to stick with Houston.
Well, you've heard it here first. We've got Greg taking Houston to go all the way, and Sean has the Cardinals. He's the homer, of course. He goes along with his NHL preview, taking the Blues to win the Cup, and he's got the Cardinals winning the World Series at the end. That's going to do it for this episode. We hope you've enjoyed, and we'll be back in a couple weeks. If you like what you've heard, please like the video and subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Thanks so much.